Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk about some recent news regarding the US Supreme Court, internet service providers, and the subject of piracy. Or more specifically, online piracy, as the US Supreme Court has just ruled that internet service providers cannot be held liable just because some pirates online used their services, even in situations in which the ISP is well aware of what exactly is going on. It is of note that the case that set this particular precedent has been going through the courts since at least 2018, with rulings going back and forth, until, as I mentioned, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, at which point the precedent has been set. I believe this is ultimately good news, but it does lead one to wonder what the long-term consequences are going to be as a result of this. For one thing, it would mean that companies that are trying to enforce their copyright and sue people into oblivion are more apt to try to go after pirates, at least in theory, though that might ultimately be a case of trying to draw water from a stone. In most cases, that would simply be a negative return on investment for the companies trying to enforce their copyright. I'm not going to say that's never going to happen, I just don't see it as being that much more common as a result of this court case. The other thing I suspect may be worth noting is how this might impact the enforcement and application of Section 230. Because if ISPs are not being held accountable for piracy occurring on the internet services they provide, then that really does put a dent into the argument espoused by some that social media platforms should somehow be held accountable for perfectly legal opinions being espoused on their platforms. Do I think this is going to have that much of a significant impact on social media and Section 230? No, not really. At least not in the short term in any case. Nor is that really the issue going on. It's more a case of social media companies using the excuse themselves to try to silence opinions they don't like, whilst also completely ignoring the fact that Section 230 is only meant for platforms, not publishers. Still, there is an element of that no longer being as economically viable for these companies as it once was. I would argue they are having an increasing motive from a financial standpoint to relax their rules and regulations. It is still a battle, though, that the average Joe should engage with in order to ensure that his rights are preserved online. Or, more accurately, that his rights that he once had are reclaimed online. And reclaim it we can certainly achieve. It is only a matter of time.